Yes.
Beautiful.
Well, good evening or good morning to some of you guys, maybe me, everyone, and welcome to the session, which is Ancestral Homecoming Trip Reflection and our retreat info session. My name is Xuel, like shh and well, Xuel. And there's also Tian Tian will be your host for tonight. And we're going to do a quick intro of ourselves first. So my name is Xuel, and in Chinese, I go by Xuel. I'm a California trained, China-based right now, bilingual psychotherapist and facilitator. I was in the US for 12 years, mostly in Bay Area, until this summer. I moved back to Asia. And I'm extremely passionate about everything related to ancestral healing, indigenous wisdom. I was born in Nanjing and I moved to the States at age 17 for my education. And I was very determined to do that and threatened my parents to do that. So, and in the past, I was quite connected with this group called Conscious Asians in the Bay Area. With which I created and hosted a bunch of Asian diaspora related events. But this time, I'm very excited to introduce Tian Tian and our project with you because we're doing something completely new, but also a dream come true for me. So I'll pass it on to Tian Tian.
Yeah, thank you, Xuel. And my name is Tian Tian, and Tian Tian is actually my Chinese name, my Chinese nickname. I went by the name Mary for a long time, and later on, I'll share a bit about just my personal journey and multiple name changes. And I'm based in California right now, and I'm a holistic wellness and life coach. And I also am a facilitator and host a lot of retreats. And maybe just a little bit about how Xuan and I met. We actually met in Bali at a meditation retreat a few years ago. And we realized we had a lot of shared common interests, including our trauma and healing and spiritual growth journey together. And we just felt really called to serve. And ever since meeting Xuel, we started creating spaces, especially for Asian and Chinese diaspora communities to come together to reconnect with our ancestral and spiritual roots. And really through this individual and collective healing, we're here to really cultivate this deep sense of belonging and ultimately guide others to find their inner peace and a sense of home within ourselves. And maybe before we get started, we can just do a short meditation just to arrive into the space. And wherever you are, maybe you can just take a few breaths to get settled. And if it feels comfortable for you, you may gently close your eyes. And if you prefer, you may also lower your gaze. Let's take one deep inhalation through your nose, feeling your belly and your chest rise. Hold that breath for 2, 1, before open mouth. Let's do that 2 more times together. Inhale deeply, feeling the air in your lungs. Hold that breath for 2, 1, open mouth, let it go. One more time, breathing in. Allow this to be your biggest breath yet. Allow your belly and then your chest to rise and hold for 2, 1, open mouth. Allow yourself to ground even more into this present moment. Now bring your awareness to the ground beneath you. Really feel the earth supporting you, holding you. And now imagine roots growing from the soles of your feet reaching deep into the earth below. These roots connect you to the land, to our ancestors, and to the generations that have walked this path before us. And as you breathe, envision these roots drawing energy from the ground. Allow you to feel even more grounded into this moment and into that wisdom of those who came before you. Really feel the connection to your lineage, to your roots, to your homeland. Just take a few moments to honor that connection, to feel the support, and to know that you're part of a much larger web of life that stretches across time. And as you continue to breathe, allow yourself to tap into that strength and stability. With every breath, feeling more present, more connected. And on your next breath, you may gently open your eyes and arrive back into the space. And thank you for taking this moment to find our center and to feel more connected. So our agenda today is that I will first share a bit about my personal journey, as well as what I learned through our time together in China, our reflections, and just all these things that were so surprising to us. And then Xuel will take you through a bit about the project that really inspired us after our 6 weeks together in China. And before we start, I just want to say a few things. It's been a month since I've been back from this 6 months homecoming trip across China. And to say this trip was life-changing or transformative seems like an understatement. And it really was super powerful for me. And I'm still in this place where I'm digesting and unpacking and processing everything this journey meant for me. So what I'm about to share is going to be very messy and very raw, and what I have processed so far. And also I feel very tender and very vulnerable and a bit nervous in this moment. Um, as this journey is so personal to me. Oh, thank you. So I just want to thank everyone here for holding this space for me as I try to articulate this massive experience into words. Okay. I have prepared some slides with pictures because the pictures will help me. Give me 1 second to project. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, give me 1 second. All right, okay. So, the self-inquiry that has been central in my life and the one that has driven much of my personal healing journey has been the question, where is home? And I really want to start sharing a bit about my upbringing and give you some context to why I spent most of my life attempting to answer this question and figuring out where home is for me. So when I was just 6 months old, my parents separated. And this happened during a time in China when divorce was still a big taboo. So at the time, essentially, if you want to get a divorce, you have to get an approval from your boss at work because family separation was such a big threat to social harmony. And despite these challenges, my parents went through with a separation anyway. And while I don't have any conscious memory of this moment, I recognize that it probably marked my life with this feeling of disconnection and separation and a lot of attachment wounds. And after the divorce, I was left to be raised by my yeye and nai, who are my paternal grandparents. Here's some pictures. This is my yeye. And my father at the same time went to work in Beijing, Shanghai, and eventually he came to the US to find work. And my yeye and nai really loved me, and I felt their love deeply. But I always knew something was missing. And I was often reminded of my difference. So, for example, whenever I would go out with my aunt, a lot of people would think my aunt was my mom. And then she would proceed to explain to everyone, oh, like I'm her aunt, I'm not her mom. And I pity her a lot because she doesn't have parents. And that's why I'm taking her out. Also, kids at school will always sing the song 世上只有妈妈好. I don't know if some of you might know the song. These are the lyrics. And it goes, 世上只有妈妈好，没妈的孩子像根草, which means mom is the best in the world. And if you don't have a mom, then you're like a piece of grass. And so these, these moments really made me feel like I wasn't like the other kids. I felt like I was different and I didn't belong. And emotionally, I felt like an orphan, even though I was under the care of my grandparents. And at the age of 11, I moved to the US. I was sent to the US to live with my dad because my grandparents' health were getting worse. And all of a sudden, I was in a world that felt even more foreign to me. First of all, I didn't really know my dad that much because he wasn't around when I was growing up. And I really felt like he was a stranger to me. And I struggled a lot to relate to him. And he raised me with the only approach he knew, which was a very strict, traditional Chinese upbringing. There was a lot of immense pressure to get good grades and to excel academically. And if I didn't meet his expectations, and I was subjected to a lot of severe physical punishment, which was very much the Chinese way and the only way he knew when he was growing up on how to be a parent. And this constant punishment just left me feeling really unsafe in my own body. And over time, I learned to suppress and numb my own feelings and really unable to trust myself or my emotions. And I internalized the belief that if I didn't get good enough of a grades, then I was not worthy of love. And yeah, I feel like this is unfortunately a very typical Chinese upbringing. These are some pictures of my childhood. This is my grandparents, yeye and nai, who raised me. And as you can see, even since I was a kid, I was very much a spiritual kid. Probably was already asking questions like, where's home? What is this human life? So at the age of 11, that's when I came to the US. I had to navigate this entirely different world in the US. And I was the only Chinese kid in a predominantly white neighborhood in Massachusetts. And I quickly realized that in order for me to fit in, I had to assimilate. So I changed my name to Mary as a way to fit in. I stopped speaking Chinese, and even my dad at the time really pushed me to learn English as quickly as possible. He really wanted me just to blend in. And I feel like for a lot of us who are immigrants, we did a lot of things just to blend in because they felt like it was a safer choice. But the act of giving up my language and my culture, and my identity, even though it was a survival mechanism at the time, um, but it led me to really deny my roots and deny my Chinese side. And I felt like on top of that, I also internalized white supremacy, and I thought everything white and everything American was automatically better. And not only did I reject um, my Chinese heritage, I was actually deeply ashamed that I was Chinese. And I believe that in order for me to be accepted, I had to abandon and really sabotage this Chinese side of me to survive in this new world. And I was living in this new country with my dad, who had very high expectations of me. So I also began to internalize belief that in order to feel worthy and in order to be safe and feel loved, I needed to become the person other people wanted me to be. And this really led me to seek this path that is focused on external achievement and validation. So I did essentially what a good immigrant Asian daughter would do. I went after success in everything, getting good grades, getting good career, successful jobs, quote unquote successful. So these are some pictures from my banking days. That was my first job out of college. I spent about 80 to 100 hours working, which is why my coworkers at the time took a lot of pictures of me sleeping. Um, I went to Harvard to get my MBA, and I got all these sexy jobs at big tech companies and startups. I was essentially chasing this American dream and immigrant dream that promised a lot of fulfillment and happiness. And I thought if I could achieve all of this, then I would finally feel worthy and whole. But by the time I turned 30, which is essentially our Saturn return, for those of you who know about Saturn return, um, I secured essentially what I thought was my dream job at this extremely well-funded, high-growth startup. But by then, I was completely burned out. I had insomniac, inflammatory GI issues. My hair started to fall out. So not only was I not happy or fulfilled for following this formula for um, a happy American dream, I was deeply unfulfilled. And I felt really empty and dead on the inside. And it really felt like the walls around me were crumbling, and I started to question everything in my life. And that's when the truth hit me really hard that external and material success could never fill that hole inside of me. And what I had been searching all along was actually this sense of belonging. So my journey and experience might be a bit different than yours, but if you're an immigrant or if you're part of this diaspora population far away from your homeland, I feel like you might be able to relate to some of the feelings I felt and some of the struggles I went through. And maybe you felt the pressure to fit in or assimilate in a place that doesn't quite feel like home. Maybe you experienced that internal conflict I did, rejecting some parts of yourself, maybe it's your language or your culture, just to be accepted. Maybe you found yourself chasing these external success, whether it's grades or a career or external approval, just to feel like you want to fill that void inside. Or maybe you're like me, you've gotten to this point where you feel like you achieved a lot of things, but you still feel that deep emptiness on the inside. So, yeah, I'm curious at this point if any of this resonates with you. And if it does, leave an emoji in the chat. Oh, yeah, I'm seeing some of the chats right now. I went through a very similar journey. Thank you. Yeah. And I just want to let you know that if you ever felt this way, you are not alone. And thank you, Lei, for this picture you took a few weeks ago. So all of us living in this modern day society experience this sense of disconnection, but especially those of us who are in the diaspora, living far away from our homeland, this feeling of disconnection can feel even deeper. At some point, we may feel disconnected from our roots, our lineage, from the earth, from our families, from our community, from our own intuition and our own body. And we feel disconnected from something greater than our material existence. And it's a struggle that we know so well, because many of us have this immigrant experience. But in recognizing and naming this disconnection, we can begin to reclaim what we lost and work towards coming back to ourselves and really coming back to our roots and the deeper connections we seek. So I've been searching for a long time. I feel like I've been a seeker ever since I moved to the US, like even as a teenager, and especially in college. I studied philosophy. I remember when I started working, I would take PTOs and vacations to go to meditation retreats and explored a lot of spiritual practices as a way to figure out what is the meaning of all of this? What is the truth? And I felt like no matter how much I searched, I still felt like something was missing. And maybe I found pieces of truth in different practices along the way, but it never felt really whole. So for me, as along my spiritual quest, I was also searching for a home. I moved about 20 times in my life. And for 4 years, I lived nomadically across the US and internationally, and even spent some time living in India and Bali, following living masters, hoping to learn something just from their teaching. But the more I searched, the more I felt ungrounded, unsettled, until earlier this year, essentially an unexpected invitation came, a trip back to China, because my yeye, the last of my grandparents, passed away during COVID. And I knew it was time for me to go back to China to sweep his tomb and really honor him and find closure. And usually every time I go back to China is to spend time with yeye and nai. But this time, because of yeye's passing, it meant that I didn't have this family obligation. And for the first time, it was I could roam around in China and travel around a bit. So intuitively, I knew something big was going to happen, but I had no idea what it would be. And I felt a lot of hesitation and a lot of anticipation. And I was asking all these questions like, oh my God, am I too Americanized? Why still be accepted by my own people? What am I going to say if my relatives ask me, what am I doing for work and what am I doing with my life? And I just had a lot of preconceived notion about China as well. The grueling 996 working culture and the fact that a lot of youth in China wants to 躺平, which is lie flat. So I just had a lot of fear and uncertainty about going back, and I wasn't sure how I would feel and how others would feel about me. But deep down, I knew I had to go back, not just to pay respect to my yeye, but also to confront a lot of these feelings and wounds I've been carrying. And little did I know, this trip turned out to be the journey that has changed a lot of things for me. So the homecoming journey, I did very little planning. The only thing I did was buy a one-way ticket from SFO to Dalian. Dalian's my hometown. And I kind of just let the universe figure out the rest. And the universe took me all across China, to Wudangshan, which is a Taoist mountain, to Yunnan, which is the birthplace of tea, Wuyishan in Fujian, which is another beautiful mountain with chadao, like tea culture, and also Hainan, which is like the Hawaii of China. And this journey was filled with a lot of moments of grief and also a lot of moments of joy. And also a lot of times I was really just moved to tears without really knowing why. So I'll try my best to share the lessons that came through me. And I know that there's still a lot of lessons that are yet to be unpacked. So one of the first lessons I learned was this feeling of acceptance, 包容. So 包容 in the Cambridge translation dictionary means is willing or to allow or approve of someone or to consider something as normal. And I felt like that was really the experience for me because when I was in China, just being there, walking on the streets or interacting with locals or without even speaking a single word to anyone, I felt normal the first time in a long time. And I felt really accepted. No one was asking me where I was really from, and no one really treated me like an outsider or like American. And I felt like it was such a surprise for me and also a relief, and honestly, a little overwhelming. My family that I have forgotten I had in China, and even strangers and friends I met along the way, just showed me so much love and warmth and understanding. And I was extremely insecure about my Chinese because I speak like I'm still a 10-year-old like elementary school kid. And I was worried people would judge me or laugh at me for not being fluent. And it was completely the opposite. No one made fun of me. People offer a lot of help and a lot of encouragement. And we were even asked to lead 2 workshops in Chinese. So this is one of the workshops Xuel and I hosted in Xiamen. And I feel like it was really in those moments, something really shifted within me. My confidence in my ability to speak Chinese grew. And I realized I wasn't just improving my Chinese, I was really reclaiming and reconnecting with a piece of myself that I neglected for a long time. And speaking in our mother tongue became an activation of power. And I really felt like I was so disconnected from my roots for a long time that this love and acceptance was, yeah, it was honestly so overwhelming because it was something I had longed for a long time. And for a long time, I thought I was alone. I just felt really lonely in my journey. And just going back, the first thing I felt was, oh my God, I actually have a family and I have a home, and China is my homeland. Yeah. So the second lesson that came through me was this lesson around non-duality. And what I mean by this is oftentimes I feel like living in the West, we're taught that we have to choose. Things are oftentimes black and white, or you're either a Democrat or you're a Republican, you're either American or you're Chinese. And we're conditioned to think that these identities and beliefs and choices are separate, like boxes we must fit in. But in Chinese culture, especially in Taoism, the sense of duality simply does not exist. And it really is this false dichotomy and this illusion of separation. So, for example, when you go to China, if you were to ask someone, are you a Taoist or are you a Buddhist or are you a Confucius? People would literally be confused because the answer is all of the above. People 双修 or 三修, which means they practice both Taoism or Buddhism or all three, including Confucianism. Because really, I feel like our Chinese culture has this overwhelming like 包容, like acceptance, and it's almost like this fluidity, this embracing, rather than having to choose one or the other. And this is so deeply ingrained in our culture. So I'll give you another example of how this non-duality shows up in the Chinese culture, which is through traditional Chinese medicine. So in the West, for example, we view our body as this like fragmented thing. Each organ is separate and our body is separate from our mind. But in Chinese medicine, for example, everything is interconnected. So when we talk about our kidney, we're not just talking about this organ. this kidney organ, we're talking about this entire energetic circuit and the emotions associated with kidney, which is fear and anxiety, and is also connected to the water element, and is storing our jing, which is our life essence. So in Chinese medicine, there's no like separation that every organ is its own thing. Everything is connected. It's a very holistic approach. And I just feel like this is offering me this entirely radical, different cosmology on relating and viewing the world. And all of a sudden, I feel like I don't have to choose between being Chinese or being American. And yeah, this trip really made me realize that I'm not here to resolve this tension between my Chinese identity and my experience and my American experience, but instead, I can really embrace both aspects of who I am. This is me voting this year. And this is enough, and there's enough space within me to allow my American side and my Chinese side to exist. And oftentimes, I feel like for a lot of us, it's this in between space that feels the most uncomfortable, or at least at first. And also, it's in this in between space that we're able to find a more complete and integrated sense of who we are. So I give a lot of gratitude to our ancestors for just helping me realize, realize this way of relating and being in this world. Another lesson is around seasonal living. So I felt like the entire 6 weeks I was in China, my body just felt so good. Um, I felt like I was really living and practicing this seasonal living and really aligning to the natural world. It's something, it's something our ancestors knew how to do so well, living in direct connections with the land and the stars. And most mornings in China, Xuel and I spent quite a lot of time together. We were immersed in nature, and we were waking up when the sun was rising and resting after the sunset, just like our ancestors did. And right after waking up, we would do Tai Chi and Qigong with our friends. We would eat warm breakfast, so a lot of congee and soy milk, do some work, do some contemplation, maybe some meditation, a walk in nature, or just like simply sit under the sun, just to be basked in the sun and feeling nourished. And this is a concept that our Chinese ancestors knew so well. This is Tian Ren He Yi, which is the unity between humans and nature. The Taoists really believe that humans are part of nature. And that's why when we do Tai Chi or Qigong, we talk about Xiao Zhou Tian, which is the little universe that is inside of us. Our ancestors had this deep attunement to our land. And that's why the Chinese calendar is also a lunar solar calendar, following both the positions of the sun and the moon in the sky. And this return to nature was so deeply healing and grounding in my body. I just felt so good every day, 很舒服. Like, yeah. And also the food that we ate was so nourishing. Usually in the US, I tend to eat 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day, but in China, we ate 3 warm meals per day. And I felt like Chinese culture in particular is very specific about food. And there's different recommendations on what we should eat during each jieqi, which is each seasonal period. Because our ancestors just knew that different times of the year require different types of nourishment. And there's something really, really magical about eating simple foods that are warm, growing on the same land our ancestors once walked on. And really just eating this food made me feel like made me feel so connected to my body. And my body responded really well. My digestion really improved. My energy felt like it was more balanced. And it was this feeling of tong. I don't know how to say tong in English, but it's like something just opened, the energetic circuit kind of opened within me. And this is also shown through, for example, Chinese medicine. And as probably a lot of you know, Chinese medicine is mostly through food and also through herbs and through natural elements, rather than synthetic pharmaceutical pills that we pop. And this is like a few pictures from our time at this Taoist temple we stayed at, where we made mugworts by hand. And this is Xuel fire cupping me and me being really scared of her doing that. Xuel is very talented at a lot of things, but I don't think she should be a doctor. And this is, using fire as a healing element for our body. So even healing in our Chinese culture is around activating our body's own healing mechanism using a lot of natural herbs and a lot of natural elements. Whereas in contrast, I feel like living in the West, especially in this modern day society, this capitalism system that we live in, I just felt like I was living in a constant state of summer. And the system just demands harvest all year round. And this demand is so unnatural for our body. And it almost feels like a type of violence on our body and mind, to always be striving, to be pushing forward, to produce without considering these cycles of rest and renewal. And just learning from our ancestors and living in this deep attunement with the seasons, with nature, made me feel this deep sense of home within my own body. So another lesson I learned is embody spiritualism. And spiritualism in China is not this abstract intellectual debate. If you go up to someone and you ask them, hey, are you spiritual? Or what does your spiritual practice look like? People would be really confused because they're simply living it. No one is calling themselves or labeling themselves as spiritual. That spirituality is permeated through everyday life. So you see this, for example, when you go to the park in the morning, there will be all these grandpas and grandmas doing qigong and tai chi, or just simply walking around. And this type of yangsheng, which is nourishing life practice, is so embedded in the culture, people aren't even thinking twice. And yeah, like for example, what I just mentioned around food, that's a type of medicine. And that eating food and eating seasonal food is also a type of embodied spirituality. And I feel like our ancestors were like, they're such practical, grounded people. They allowed us to do this cultivation, the self-cultivation every day in very accessible ways. So everything can be a cultivation. For example, cooking or cleaning, or just walking. That is all moments and opportunities in which we can cultivate that presence. And these are some pictures from, just like screenshots I've taken from Xuel and these are friends we met at a Taoist temple in China. And we've been doing our Qigong and Haha Gong every single day for almost like 60 days, right? And this is not something where people would be labeled as, oh, this is spiritual. It's just something they do as a way to nourish our body and nourish our qi and really cultivate our connections with the land and with the heavens. And I feel like I can talk so much more about everything I learned. And there is so much more, but I'll save some time today to just summarize some of the things, which is, there's so much deep and rich wisdom embedded in our lineage. This is probably the first time in my life that I felt so proud to be Chinese, because our Chinese culture and history, it really is over 5,000 years. And it's one of the most ancient and enduring cultures in the world. And within this immense legacy, there are so many countless gifts waiting to be uncovered by us. And for me, it wasn't until I returned to this homeland, until I started speaking my own mother tongue until I was immersed fully in this culture, did I begin to feel like I'm receiving these gifts. And being back in China felt like this genetic activation. Like I was able to reclaim these pieces of myself that I really never allowed to shine through. And yeah, just reconnecting with our heritage felt like I was tapping into some hidden power and the strength that has been here all along, but it was just buried under all these feelings of disconnection and pretending to be someone. And walking on the land that our ancestors once did, connecting with our own Chinese traditions felt so deeply nourishing. And I really felt like this trip gave me this deep sense of belonging and interconnectedness I was looking for a long time. And I really felt like 我终于回家了. I'm finally home. And that's the thing about home. It's not just about the place. Home is about returning to the wholeness of who we are. It's about shedding layers of alienation and disconnection we built over the years to protect ourselves. It's about shedding these layers of shame or fear, these pieces we've been hiding as a way to fit in. And home is how we feel on the inside. It's this full acceptance and this permission to be who we truly are. It's about living in accordance to nature, cultivating our own embodied spiritualism, connecting deeply with our own being, with nature, with land, with the beyond realm, with each other. It's about coming home to the wholeness of ourselves and recognizing that this journey is not something we're meant to walk alone. So here's our invitation to you. Are you ready to reconnect with your roots, your truth, and the wholeness of who you are? And are you ready to come home? Thank you. Thank you for giving me this space to share my story.
Thank you so much, Tian Tian. That was so touching. I invite everyone to give her a round of reaction emojis. It must be really hard to share these very vulnerable feelings and big insights in such a container. So,
Thank you. When I was preparing for it today, I cried so much. I felt like every time I was preparing for it, I end up crying, and it happened like 6 or 7 times. So I'm so happy, and yeah, I'm so happy for everyone to hold this space for me to tell my story. And it's our hope to encourage every single one of us to take up space and tell our story because our voices are meant to be heard and our stories are meant to be heard. Yeah, thank you.
yay, yay. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and share this project that Tian Tian and I have been working on. Um, and I just want to add to Tian Tian's share that it was very powerful for me as a first generation Chinese diaspora person to witness someone experiencing so much learning and tears during her trip. We shared a month-long trip together, and I realized how visiting those sites and having our very intimate conversations, processing, reflecting on our experiences being in the United States, being in China, and also getting in touch with local Chinese friends and teachers and really get access this authentic version of Chinese wisdom and spirituality was something not everyone could access and so rare and so special. So this is a reason why we're producing this retreat and also an online community, because it is both of our dream come true to bring this kind of experience to more people that really need it. We are not producing a genealogy research project. We're not going to teach you how to research your lineage. We are not taking you to a tourist journey visiting too many different sides of China. Instead, we are especially passionate about creating container with just Chinese diaspora folks, staying a beautiful nature that's very grounded in or have a very rich resource of Chinese indigenous wisdom, doing holistic practices every day so that we can have this very special time to connect to ourselves, connect to the wisdom of our ancestors and the land, and then unfold all the feelings, all that craziness that's waiting for you once you start to reconnect and remember who you are. And next slide. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So we designed the street for anyone who identify with the Chinese diaspora population, no matter if you're first gen or you're mixed heritage or you're adopted. Everything will be in English. Everything will be designed for this very specific population and needs. We are going to invite and have some local Chinese teachers teaching some lessons or coming to share some things. And we might also invite local Chinese friends in Dali, Yunnan, to participate in a excited dance with us. However, all those content that's delivered in Chinese will be translated. So next slide. And I want to share a little bit about our guiding principles, because both Tian Tian and I are very passionate and very specific about what we want to create. We both have a lot of experience facilitating different kinds of containers. A lot of those are for Asian diaspora populations. And we are especially fervent or passionate about standing against cultural appropriation and bringing the most traditional and embodied wisdom to y'all. We really do not like when facilitators and teachers are preaching and presenting a model in which you are not the authority of your own healing journey. So we designed this experience to cater to individuals' needs, and especially with processing and sharing groups, so that you can really digest what you're experiencing and then coming to terms with your own lessons and insights. In addition, me being a psychotherapist and having a lot of experience working with trauma history folks, we are also very attuned to the possibility of the kind of difficult materials that might surface through this experience. So we are also creating space for addressing things such as things that's difficult to talk about in our daily lives. Systematic, generational, cultural wounds, it all comes up. It's not an easy journey. We both know, we both have been through different kinds of therapy sessions and different kinds of containers. We're gonna get triggered. The moment you start trying to speak Chinese, the moment you start finding your original tongue and finding your original ways of living and dancing and getting in touch with real Chinese people that are still living in China, a lot of feelings that's hidden in our journey, hidden in our body are going to surface up. So we are especially sensitive about that. At the same time, we're not doing group therapy. We're creating an experience in which we come together as a community. We really believe in collective healing. We really believe in the group of people coming together with shared lineage, shared history, and shared goals, supporting each other. And that's what I found the most healing in my experience, collaborating and also having fun with my Chinese diaspora community, just by being together and holding the intention of us going back to our homes and walking each other home together. That itself is profoundly healing. Okay, so next slide. What to expect? Because we really emphasize embodied and somatic and accessible healing, we make sure to include exercises and sessions so that we can practice ancient healing arts together. For example, Qigong, calligraphy, tea ceremony. And we will also get to explore some nature beautiful sites around our retreat venue, which I will talk about later. Dali, Yunnan, it's a beautiful place. We're going to visit some tea farms. We're going to visit this beautiful lake and being immersed in nature and have the ancestral spirits that are still well-meaning and alive, just embedded in the land and elemental atmosphere, inspire us. And also a core thing we're bringing is process and sharing groups. Okay, next slide. What else? Yeah, one word about ancestral work together. We are going to have an ancestral honoring ceremony, which we've already done 1 or 2 times in Bay Area. It's going to be a very special container for a lot of folks that have not been in a space where you get to honor your ancestors in a ceremonial way. So this has been profoundly transformational every time we did it in the past in Bay Area. So I cannot wait for people to experience it while we're in Dali, China, and in a container in which we spend 7 days together and doing this work together. Okay, next slide. So this is a screenshot of our sample schedule. You will see that our mornings are mostly filled with mindfulness and Taiji and somatic work that is going to take place in the retreat venue. In the afternoons, we're going to have excursions to different places, including tea farm, learning about Chinese medicine from a Chinese medicine doctor. We're going to visit a temple right next to the retreat venue. I'm going to bike around this beautiful lake. And then at night, we're going to have a little bit more deeper, emotionally slightly intense or nurturing containers, such as a song circle, such as so excited dance, such as some bath. Great. And yeah, next slide. I'm especially excited about our retreat center because it's truly nurturing. It's right next to a Buddhist temple. If you could see in the picture, this is a Buddhist temple. Yes, yes, yes. And there are ancient big trees everywhere, especially this one, if you see the picture. And this whole retreat center is designed with really good feng shui and including several spaces that's very Chinese culture productive. Is that a word? Anyways, so it has a tea ceremony space, it has a main events and activity space, and it has beautiful dining halls, and we'll get to have on-site chefs that's gonna cook seasonal vegetarian food for us. And let's go to the next slide. Because the food that we're gonna have is going to be really connected to the land that we're going to be on, this place called Dali. If you know Yunnan, you might know that it's the center of ethnic minority, exotic biodiversity, and also tea cultivation in China. It's a very unique place because it used to be a country of its own before it was assimilated into Chinese culture. So it has very, very rich biological and ecological resource. The food we're going to eat, and we have been there, is going to have so much mushrooms and so much flavor and intensity of nutrients that it's like a treat on its own. At the same time, because of its cultural diversity, it's especially inclusive of different religions and different ethnic cultures. And when I was there, I really felt that it couldn't be a better place for hosting a retreat like this, because you're going to feel so accepted wherever you're from, no matter where your lineage, your family history is. The land itself is especially tolerating and especially vibrant. And until this day, because of its unique location of the west side of China, it has preserved a lot of indigenous wisdom. You still see in this indigenous architecture, very well preserved mountains and lakes, and also local ethnic cultural people practicing things such as festivals or agricultural cultivation, or just like hanging out, doing their own thing. So, and then recently, just the past, I would say 10, 20 years, Dali has become kind of a spiritual hub of China. A lot of different healers, artists from China and also from different parts of the world go to Dali for retreats, go to Dali for finding alternative lifestyle. And then it has gained this funny name called California because such a cultural and spiritual hub. So I think this will be a really fun place, no matter if you're coming to stay in this retreat with us or if you want to explore around Dali, Yunnan before or after the retreat center. You're going to gain just a rich collection of nature, of cultural practices, of really good food. Yeah, by being there. Okay, next slide. Yes. So I invite you to imagine walking in the footsteps of your ancestors, feeling the sacred energy of the land where they once come from, lived and thrived, arriving a place where you've never been, but feeling like home, or participating in ancient rituals that really awaken a deep sense of connection, activating your DNA that remembers things before language, before cognitive understanding. And being held and supported by a loving community of kindred souls are committed to collective healing, honoring exactly who you are, and reclaiming and embracing the wholeness of who you are in that moment, truly coming home. Okay, now we're going to talk about the logistics. Our retreat includes accommodation, food, snacks, and tea, high quality, locally grown tea. Activities are excursions and transportations, also pre-retreat and post-retreat preparation in the integration costs, because we really care about helping people integrate, helping people prepare for this trip so that you can get most of the experience. Will not include plane tickets, visa fee, travel insurance, personal activity costs. But if you have questions, arranging things, and getting to and from the retreat, we're going to be there supporting you. And the price we now have in early bird is anywhere from 2266 to 2666. And the price will raise after New Year's. Next slide. So our maximum group size will be 16, and we already have a few people saying yes to us. So now we only have limited spots left. And I want to let all of you guys know that we have a special offering. If you book before the New Year's, you'll get 54.3 off total savings, which include 222 off full price of the retreat. And we're going to give you free access of our 4-month online community. We're going to talk about that later. And also this course that we produced January this year, that's all about ancestral honoring practices. But how do you connect to your ancestral guides using somatic and intuitive exercises? This course was really, really high quality on itself, because a lot of people who participated in our course early this year, they were suspicious. They're like, I don't even know our ancestors. I don't know how to talk to them. And I don't really believe in the somatic intuitive exercise. But after, a lot of people told us they were blown away in how much information they could just get by tuning into their body and tuning into their extrasensory abilities. And it also included how to build an altar and fundamentals of ancestral work in this course. So just the gifts itself, I would say, is pretty valuable. Yeah. Okay. Next slide.
Thank you, Xuel, for
Tian Tian.
treat. Yeah, I feel like coming back to this feeling of alienation and confusion and just sense of loneliness is something probably all of us felt at some point in our life. And at some point, we also ask these questions around, who am I? What am I here to do? What is my purpose in this life? Um, and we just want to let you know that the reality is that you are not alone. And while we may think that we're a lonely tree in the forest, we're actually deeply connected to our roots. And our root is what Xuel and I coined it as Ancestral Trust Fund. It really connects us to our gifts and our purpose and our wisdom and guidance and strength and skills. It's essentially the flip side of the coin of intergenerational trauma. Of course, we carry wounds and trauma, but we also carry a lot of gifts from our ancestors that we can access. And the other reality is that we are not alone in this journey. We are always walking together, even though sometimes we feel like we're this lonely tree in the forest. And Xuel and I really believe in the power of collective healing and collective homecoming, because we are connected. We all come from the same source. In fact, our ancestors really believe that we actually came from the heavens, right? That's our home. And we have this shared humanity. And when we're together in community, we feel a lot more empowered, and we're able to tap into that abundance and the gifts, and we're able to mirror each other and to make sense of our own experience. So we ask you, what if coming home to yourself began with reconnecting with your deepest roots? Yeah, thank you for being here and listening to my story, and to the project that birthed out of the inspiration from our China trip. And we would love to open up the floor to any questions you might have, maybe reactions. Maybe you just want to come on and say hi. We'll take this time to do that. Let's see, gallery view.
I have a couple questions. I can start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very touching, and I opened package at the same time of like some a necklace. I guess my mom had mailed me, and it came in this like very Chinese looking um I guess back. Um, I I have a couple of practical questions regarding what would be the closest airport, and do you have a refund policy?
You can find all of that on our website in the Q&A session. So I'll just direct you there. But a quick answer is either Dali Airport or Kunming Airport. You'll find more internationally connecting flights from Kunming Airport. But we're going to help with transportation if you arrive in Dali or Kunming, helping you know, because sometimes, booking trains and all that stuff could be complicated. And we do have a refund policy too. Yeah. It's based on when do you register.
Yeah, and I would just say that actually going back to China this time, it was a lot challenging than I thought it would be, because everything is on WeChat. Everything is connected. So I relied heavily on Xuel in being my bank account, being my travel agent.
Yeah, we're highly aware of the
Yeah,
logistical challenges of traveling across China without a Chinese ID. So part of the reason why we're organizing this retreat is so that we can do this together. I can provide you guys with tips and practical support too. Yeah.
yeah. And that will be all in the pre-trip preparation with like exactly what apps you need to download and all the good stuff. Yeah, thank you for those questions, Henry.
I have a question. Is that me?
Yes. Hi.
Hosting this Zoom again, because I think I might have friends who would be interested.
Yes, we are doing it again. I believe in February, but we'll send out the deets later. Yeah, because we assume that there's going to be more people interested in this.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yes.
you.
And also, for anyone who might be interested, I did my personal sharing of my China experience last few months, 2 weeks ago, but it was a very different sharing, less of my own personal story, but more like my neurodivergent spiritual downloads. But if you're curious about things coming out of Xuel, you can also message me and I'll send you the link of the recording too. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, another question I have is that the food you said are vegetarian, the meals.
Yes.
I have to have meat. Is that a problem?
I don't think it's a problem. The delivery and food is very abundant. We can definitely accommodate that to support you through different means, either through the chef or ordering other things.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
but I'm not 100% sure if the site is, let's say, they can only prepare vegetarian food because they're like a more Buddhist influenced site. However, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't say no if we brought in stuff that they didn't prepare.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Hello,
Hi, Willie.
Xuel and Tian Tian. Yeah, big thanks for putting this together and laying out an opportunity to connect and yeah, just like sharing your story. And I personally I'm not quite sure how to phrase this question, but I think something that I've been wrestling with this identity of like Chinese American is that it's like I guess I'm intensely feeling that coming from like two places of really, I guess like the current time is the like imperial powers, like uh and maybe it's like something that more be discussed in community or like as we circle in community. But I'm curious how you both are holding like the political tension of our time. Yeah, along with like the spiritual, like and like the rest and the connection and the joy that comes from this process. I'm also feeling like the tension of like the role my body has to play as like yeah, holding like American and Chinese tensions.
Yeah, that's such a great and important question. And I'll just share from my perspective first, that I really hold individual healing is going to create ripple impact and creating change in our society and the political tensions. It is my experience that healing my own internal conflicts between my different identities, healing from my own inner oppression that I've experienced, both, let's say, from other people in my life, from authorities, from parents, family that they've adopted and put onto me, or internalized oppression that I've taken on throughout my years. Just really release those shackles that's within my own body have been really so liberating and have been so connecting. I'm the kind of healer that believes in the power of love and connection instead of the power of judgment and non-duality and hate and war. And of course, we all have different approaches, but our intention of creating this container is that everything is welcome. All of you, all parts of you, no matter if it's conflicted parts, self-hating parts or judgmental parts, resentful parts, all of that. We want to make sure that you all have a voice, all parts of you have a voice, and we don't have to do anything. Like, it's not about solving them. It's not about, you know, creating solutions out of our own problems and trauma. It's about just letting them be and letting them to be accepted completely and wholly. And that's a very Chinese, I would say, Eastern approach too. Everything makes sense. And we don't have to be problem solving linear. We could be non-linear, and we could hold everything as a microcosm of the bigger world. And if we are treating, let's say, me and Tian Tian come from very different backgrounds and a lot of spaces, you know, ABCs doesn't talk to me, FOBs. Yeah, and there's so much things that just triggered by these interrelational stuff. But what if we really listen to each other? We really listen to ourselves, really hear each other on our individual, but also shared struggles and sufferings, and really get to accept and love our humanity, right? And it's that kind of feeling and that kind of harmony that is going to be profoundly healing, and also I would say change making, because the things we're doing, it really, we want to, let's say, spread this kind of movement. And already some people from, let's say, the Korean communities in Bay Area, some people from the Indian lineage communities in Bay Area have reached out to us. They are like, oh wow, how can I find my people? How can I do what your guys are doing? So we're just like, okay, if we're each doing the thing that we felt super called to do, super healing, then that's going to create the ripple effect. Sorry, I've been talking too much, but I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah, and that's a great question, Whaley. It's something that, for example, during the retreat, we'll have the container for discussion and just sharing our perspectives. And also, starting January, there will also be an online container for people who, for example, won't have the time or resources to come to the retreat, but still want to be in a container with Chinese diaspora. That would be that's something we'll meet like online twice a week. Oh, not twice a week, every other week. And that would be a great question for a discussion. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thanks.
Hi, it's Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, I'm sorry I was off camera while you were sharing. I feel kind of bad about that, but I was cooking and doing a bunch of stuff.
Oh, good.
Um,
To
but
apologize.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your story. And it was really touching and inspiring, and it hit home on some of the pieces that I was trying to put together. And yeah, I just wanted to share appreciation to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for sharing that and sharing a reflection. And I feel like this is just an example of how powerful it is to be healing in community, because when I share my story, I'm sure it's part of your story as well. And when you share your story, Emily, when the time comes, I'm sure that's my story as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments? You can simply say hi as well.
I'll say hi. Um, Tian Tian, it was so sweet to hear your story and to, yeah, for you to include us in the narrative of your life and the tragedies and traumas as well as the triumphs and joys. It was really moving for me. And yeah, just Xuel, I was so moved when you talked about how the container will welcome everything. And yeah, it just started moving a lot of material in me already. I feel like I'm in the pre-journey of it. And yeah, just a lot of appreciation for you both for putting this together, and being so thoughtful about everything.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for seeing us. And we appreciate you so much as well, our soul sister. Mm.
Yes. And I see Willy's question. We're still finalizing the guest speakers and elders, so we don't have that information super ready yet, but we'll definitely put it in our website or let you guys know. Yeah. And we do have, let's say, candidates for those speakers and elders. It's just a matter of, let's say, who we're selecting and who has availability in those dates.
Yeah, and also just on that note, I want to just bring another Chinese concept. It's called 缘分, and it's almost this like predestined fate connection. And that really permeated and led us through a lot of our journey in China. Is a lot of these questions, like it's like we worry, but we don't worry because we trust in the divine timing, and we trust the right people will help and support us and collaborate and come together with us at the right time, at the right place. And it has happened. This magic has like manifested itself so many times, countless number of times, that at this point we're like, yeah, logistics, yeah, it'll figure itself out. So yeah, we invite you to also cultivate that trust as well.
Yeah, the right people have showed up for us like magically all the time. And it's not actually sometimes pre-planning prevent that to happen. So we kind of we are grounding it with a lot of good activities and structures, but we're also creating space for that kind of thing to happen. So just keep that in mind, that the things we're presenting and putting in terms of words and on our websites are going to be just a fraction of your experience.
Hi, Tian Tian and Xuel. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing and creating such a beautiful, intentional space and retreat. I just wanted to say hello and hi to all my friends here from Chinese Medicine and Magic. And yeah, this journey of searching for belonging really resonates with me. A quick share is that I had the privilege of staying at Chozenji, a Zen dojo martial arts temple in Honolulu, and they had fine arts and martial arts, meditation, and very much based on samurai culture. Finding Zen through the body. And it was very impactful. And I keep thinking, wow, what is this in terms of Chinese culture? And I feel that your retreat gets close to that. It's for a week. However, I'm sure it's will uncover and move a lot of things for participants. So great job. And I'm looking at how I can participate. But regardless, I just want to say how much I'm rooting and cheering you on and your work, and how what a blessing it is that you're offering our community. So thank you.
Yay.
Thank
Thank you so
you
much.
for the encouragement, the kind words. And a center sounds like the dream. It is within my dream in this lifetime to build something like that, like a physical sanctuary, a temple for us. And in our online community, I mean, we haven't really hashed out the details, but Xuel and I do our cultivation practice, our Qigong every day with a few friends we met in China. But I can definitely imagine something like that here, in an accessible way, like online every day we practice for 20, 30 minutes together, our own ancient healing arts. And it feels so good in our body. That's why we practice it. I've never practiced something consistently for this long. Seriously, I get really bored. But all the Chinese stuff just feels, yeah, it just feels like home, and it just feels so good.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just saying words, but these are just words. But I feel like you know the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I feel truly touched that I think I didn't know how much response and conversation that will come out of us sharing our own experience and putting this retreat together. The recent month and weeks, I've been just blown away by people reaching out to us, either let's say wanting to find community or have done similar kinds of home coming root seeking journeys, or are in different parts of their own healing journey that are very curious about, let's say, what's happening in China, what kind of transformations they could get by getting in touch with ancient spirituality wisdoms, or they're in different other communities, ethnic groups, and wanting to do something similar. So this is the start of a project, and but I'm really sure that it will grow and grow, and we do plan to possibly host more retreats this year or in the future years. So let's keep in touch.
Yeah, I just want to say that, yeah, I can definitely relate to a lot of the things you said today, and thank you so much for sharing your personal journey. Personally, I've spent a couple of months in China already, and every time I come back, yeah, there's I feel like I always learn a lot. And this time, but in particular, I feel like just like so proud of the culture. I think in general, there's this uh, this focus to revive the kind of like the culture scene. I don't know how to translate 文创产业. And so yeah, so that part is interesting. And then I also wanna add to an earlier point that I think I do see there's a value of going beyond the retreat and keeping a online community for more story sharing, or I would also like to suggest maybe having focused on sharing each of our personal journey, because
Yeah.
I do feel like each of us have a very similar story, and this is such a great platform um, for us to talk about those things. So yeah, thank you for standing up this community.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you,
you
Erin.
so much.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we are feeling too. Yeah.
And actually, our first online community session will be about telling our own story. So thank you for
Oh,
that
nice.
suggestion. And yeah, our Xuel and I, our vision isn't just about the retreat. The retreat, of course, will be a transformative experience because we're getting taken away to our ancestral land. Our vision is really to bring people together to build a community so we can come together. So we're in this for the long term, and this really feels like our calling and our life's work. And that's why we've been deprioritizing everything or only focusing on this. And it's something that birthed like so quickly after I came back just last month. You know, like if you asked us like 2 months ago what we were doing, like we're like, I don't know. Because this just feels so true and so alive. And I'm not someone who like cries all the time, but I've been crying every day because I'm just so like my soul is like so touched and knows that this is where we want to be. So thank you for supporting us and being on the same journey home.
Yeah, yeah. And I also really resonate about what you experienced, Ariel, in China, that there's like a surge of, let's say, cultural renaissance happening, right? And I think this is a really perfect time in terms of our era to let's say re-excavate Chinese wisdom, and that's already been happening in China. So I cannot imagine, but very excited for the kind of almost like co-creation we're doing, because us as Chinese diaspora folks coming back to China, we have very fresh perspectives on, like, say, what's really the gems of the wisdom, what's really helpful, and what are, let's say, people outside of China are lacking in terms of our daily practices and cosmology. And then at the same time, the Chinese people themselves are producing a lot of really fun, entertaining new things. For example, the resurgence, I'm going on tangent here, but anyways, the resurgence of Hanfu, Chinese traditional costumes, the resurgence of learning Buddhist mantras, understanding and making that a part of daily practice. I don't think that was around when I was living in China like 20 years ago. So there's going to be, I would say, what do you call it? Like clashes and chemistries happening as we go back, and then they're also reinventing things.
Alchemy.
Alchemy. Thank you for the word. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're mindful of time, and we know it's already 8 here in California. So just want to thank you everyone for taking your precious Sunday night to spend some time with us. And we hope for more time together in community. And if you have any questions or comments and want to continue the conversation, feel free to reach out to us. And maybe we can leave our emails and also website. Here, I'll type up the website.
I will.
Yes. Thank you everyone for joining us. And we'll be sending out the recording as well. So if you feel like you have friends who can benefit from this retreat or our offerings, feel free to forward it as well.
We'll have a follow-up email with our contacts and all the links too. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Young. Thank you, Satana and Liz. So good.
Thank you.